Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome back. I'm Savinu, your host for today's webinar. Due to some inevitable reasons, we had to postpone the event last evening. I apologize for any inconvenience caused, but don't worry, we're going to make it happen today. First and foremost, let me welcome you all on behalf of the FOSS community and the Mozilla Campus Club of RLIT. This is the day 2 of our exclusive AI webinar series bringing to you in collaboration with Orel IT. Just a quick recap, guys. On day 1, we cleared up a lot of ground areas. Essentially, we covered the 101 of machine learning and data science. And today, I would highly recommend you get up your loins because we're going to go deep dive into deep learning. And just a quick reminder for the audience, please note that questions will be accepted during the session over a Padlet link, which will be shared in the Zoom chat. And another important note for our participant, to become eligible for a certificate of participation, you must attend both webinars. And please ensure that you fill out the attendance form, which will be shared towards the end of the session. On that note, we would like to welcome our sponsor, Orel IT, which is recognized as the country's largest IT solution provider, having a workforce over 4,500 employees dedicated to enabling Industry 4.0 in Sri Lanka. They deliver a multitude of services to their customers, including AI services, data services, engineering services in various industries such as finance, healthcare, manufacturing, education, and many more. So with that, we'll move on to a small video clip from our sponsor, RLIT.
We are the architects of smart future. We envision for the global community. With the world's growing, it is natural to experience environmental, health, and social and economic challenges. By constantly revisiting our guiding light, our mission of enabling Industry 4.0 in Sri Lanka, we enhance the quality of life for everyone. RLIT has proven its R&D capabilities in computer vision, natural language processing, and predictive analytics support improved efficiency. We specialize in data annotation, visual tasking, and technological product development services drawing on artificial intelligence. From object identification to progress environmental conservation, our expert AI teams pioneer cutting-edge research and formulate contemporary solutions across 13 industries. We now maintain 4 branches across Sri Lanka, working closely with top international clients.
All right. So without any further delay, let me go right ahead and introduce our speaker. As you already know, it's Mr. Sameera Abeysinghe. Mr. Sameera currently serves as the CTO of Orel IT, who's been a part of the IT industry for nearly 15 years. Mr. Sameera has spent most of his career specializing in web application development, and he's now leading a range of projects at the forefront of AI-based solutions and various other systems. With that in mind, I would like to call upon our speaker. Hello, Mr. Sameera. Welcome back. So since everyone in the audience is eagerly waiting for you, why don't we start now? This virtual stage is yours. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Samin. Samindu, correct? Yeah.
Savinu.
Okay. So thank you, Saminu. I'm assuming at least most of the participants I see here today was present on Sunday. I think if I remember correctly, I mentioned you could try out some codes or anything that you feel comfortable with, and bring any issues. So maybe demonstrate one or two systems that you have done. So you can demonstrate or ask any questions or show me what you have done if there is anything like that during the Q&A. At the first the first session on Monday, we looked into machine learning and data science, data exploration and cleaning. So it was more or less an introduction level seminar. And today we are hoping to give the introduction to deep learning and some concepts in computer vision area. So with that, I will try to start the session. Can everyone can see the session screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So we have the introduction to machine learning, and today we are like going into more of a subset of that, which is deep learning. So basically, artificial intelligence is trying to mimic or incorporate the human behaviors into a computer. So that's why intelligence is basically skills and knowledge, and knowing how to use the knowledge and the skills a human has to accomplish tasks is intelligence. So when you put the word artificial in front, it means when we apply that intelligence to something which is not natural, which is a computer. So that's why how the artificial intelligence word has come up. And machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence. Basically, it's mentioned that how a computer learns from the data and approach to how to fix certain issues that been presented to a computer. So what is deep learning? Now, machine learning is about computers being able to perform certain tasks without being programmed explicitly. But computers still lacks the ability to perform certain tasks, certain complex tasks. Let's say identifying a human voice, just like the words that is coming out, and identifying what that actual person has said. Or one of the most famous areas in this machine learning and deep learning is gathering details or data from an image or a video, and writing code or programs to do certain tasks, to complete certain tasks based on those data or data captured or gathered from the image or the video. So deep learning is basically the giving the ability to a computer or a function or algorithm to perform these complex tasks, just like humans that need to learn to how to perform complex tasks. Same as that concept, the machine also has to learn that. So when it comes to like coming up with a very complex artwork, it's not something that any person can do. So there are a lot of learning and training that goes on to coming up with a masterpiece, master artwork. Just like that, it's not just drawing a simple picture. So similar to that, normal tasks can be performed by computers, but when the more the task is complex, we need more advanced methods. So deep learning can be classified as one such method. So what I have put is, now again, in order to do these complex tasks, how we have come up and set this deep learning architecture is by analyzing the human brain. Now our human brain has neurons and these connection between them. Similar to that, we also have set up this architecture where we have these neurons or nodes and this connection between them. And based on this, how these connection react with these nodes or neurons, certain neurons gets activated. So once the one neuron is activated, it will perform certain tasks and it will send its output to a next neuron or a node. And again, based on certain functions, that receiving neuron will also get activated. So that's how they sort of like set up a kind of like a mesh like setup or architecture between all of these nodes or neurons, and they sort of form a path from the input section to until the end, the output. And through these paths, there are certain values or methods that we need to put in, and certain nodes get activated, and at the end we get the correct output. But how we know whether the correct path has been taken is not, it's because based on the learning we have to do. So based on the learnings we have, this activation of neurons can get changed. So that's why the more we train our algorithm, the better output there will be. And one of the issues in this training is that we need a lot of data. For an example, let's say face recognition system, where we need to add a lot of train the AI model using a lot of images and different types of facial expression in order to capture all of these different components in the face. Then only the computer can correctly identify all these separate small features and identify a person using facial recognition. So when it comes to deep learning, one of the key factor is the training part and the data we need for the training. Without proper data, we cannot actually come up with a accurate machine learning or deep learning model where we can get the expected output. There are certain issues that we need to check when it comes to data. I actually not sure whether this part was covered in the previous section. No, okay. I will come back to that now. So what is this? Yeah. So this is the neural network, that the neurons connection network that I was talking about. So you have the input area, then you have an output area. In between, there can be several layers. It can be one, it can be multiple layers. It depends on the complexity of the, it can be complexity of the problem that will determine how many layers or how many neurons or nodes that we need. Now, so the next one is, there are different kinds of neural networks available. One is called the convolution neural network, and there's another one called recurrent neural network, and there's another new kind of a concept called transformers. It's not new as in very recently came to light, but it's been gaining a lot of ground quite recently. So we will So basically the conclusion neural network, it's much more used for computer vision related tasks and image processing. So when we tell computer vision, what is computer vision? Computer vision is basically how a computer is able to gather details from an image or a video. So basically what the computer sees. So that is computer vision, or we can also say image processing. Now this convolution neural network architecture it's been mostly used in this computer vision area, and this recurrent neural network, it's more to use analyzing of data related to example time series data, event history, something like that. Now there's another word that I have missed when it comes to neural networks, which is called the deep neural network. There's no specific description for that. Basically, when there is one layer, we just can call just neural network, and when there are more than one hidden layers, we call it deep neural network. Basically, if there are more hidden layers involved, that means it's a very complex problem, which is what we're trying to fix. So computer vision is how a computer gets information from an image or an video. So that's about the computer vision. Now, what is transformers? Now, transformers is how can I say? Transformers is it's more of a architecture for transforming one already processed, already created model using more data and more algorithms. We transform it to perform a new task. It's more like if we are familiar with programming knowledge, we can say it's in terms of object-oriented concepts. If you are taking an example from object-oriented concepts, it's somewhat similar to extending already developed class. We are sort of like trying to transform and give much more functionality to this type of network. So that's the transformer network. So that's about the CNN and the transformers and what computer vision is. Now, I actually have set up a small code sample to demonstrate this CNN type. Now, yesterday on Sunday, I think I showed the Colab's this Google research lab section. So I'm sure that most of you are aware of this. So I will just notebook. Now I actually tried to attach my Google Drive to this. Yeah, I tried to attach my Google Drive to this, so then it will be easier for us to, sometimes when you run certain codes, let's say related to image processing, we might need to give a certain image and then take that image from there and process that. So when you're using this Colabs research area, one way you can do that is you can upload that image to your Google Drive and use that Google Drive location in your code. So it's easier for you to communicate. And also when you are creating any modules or models after training or anything like that, you can also save them in the Google Drive as well, so you can use it later. So I will just show that area a little bit. So what you can do is you can, I'm sure all of you are aware, you can download the Google Drive application to your machine and try to enable the sync function to any folder anywhere you want. I'm not going to show how to do that. I'm sure all of you are, can be done. So what you can do is simply create a folder in your Google Drive. So if you have the syncing function on, you can simply work in your local PC and it will automatically sync it to your Google Drive as well. So just one. Okay. So what I will first try to do is just to demonstrate how this link is happening. So it's very simple. You just have to import this Colabs Drive library, and then using this code, you can simply mount your drive here. So when this comes in, connect to Google Drive and allow. So the mounting of the Google Drive is completed. Now what I will do is I will try to run this small code which will read an image and try to, so I will explain the code later, but what I'm trying to show you is simply reading an image and getting the wireframe of that image using this CV library, and again saving that image as a new file. Okay. Okay, we'll try to take this and see if image and see if we can this to work. Okay, so I have one JPG image here. Oh. Okay, so basically first we do the import part of the needed libraries, and we do the import for the driver mounting functions, and we mount the drive, open the file we created, and using these functions we are trying to get the wireframe, sort of like the edges, out of the image and trying to save it as car-new.jpg. So we'll try to run this. Okay. So this is the output that we got. Let's try to compare that with the image that we created. So that's one of the things that you can do. You can try to play around with this code and see what kind of what are these different functions, and what are all these other variables that you can play around this. Now I'm using a library called CV2. So what is this CV library? Now CV stand here is for computer vision. Now there is a library which was done by Intel called OpenCV. So it's a very powerful library where we can use to manipulate or handle, play around with image-based data. So that I'm using that library to read the image and take the wireframe out of that image. So as you can see, there's very little code that you need to write, actually to write, in order to get this done. So it's very small, very simple. Nowadays there are a lot of libraries available like this, so it's very easy to get this done using these libraries like this. Now, the other similar libraries like this, there are many other libraries like that. I actually don't have a list, but there are some other libraries that like it's not coming to me. PyTorch is another library where you can use for these computer vision based ones, which actually we are also using them. And you have the open CV library, which is also using. And apart from that, I think I introduced a specific text-based, mainly for numerical text. I mentioned the NumPy library on Sunday. So we will try to do another computer vision based code. Let's see if I can get that up and running also. So when we are talking about computer vision, now I mentioned that computer vision is basically how a computer sees the graphical details. It can be an image or a video. One of the key components in computer vision, one of the few key components when it comes to computer vision can be mentioned as image classification, object detection, and tracking of objects, and getting certain specific details out of an image. Basically, image classification can be like, I think I mentioned this on Sunday. We could like train or create an AI model where we try to get a list of animals, and the computer model try to determine what kind of animal is in the picture. So that can be called as a classification. Now, when we are doing this image classification, there's a lot of data training gets involved. For example, if it's the same example, we need now we have different animals that we need to classify. Let's assume that we have the cats, dog, horses, like that. So now we need to train our model with all of these different animal types. Now, but we need to be careful when we are training them. We cannot like train about, let's say we have 100 images and around 80 of them is cats, and we have 20 and in dog images, and we train these 100 images and we try to get an accurate output when at the identifying the correct, and when it comes to identifying the correct animal. But training those data like that, which are huge difference with these two types that we are talking about, it's bad. We call it in this data science section, we call it overfitting our model. And when you are considering, when we say that we are overfitting our model, basically overfitting is putting too much images, unnecessary images to our model for training. When we consider the data set alone, this 80 images of cats and the 20 images of dog, we call that an imbalance data set. Now, basically, the basic concept out of that is, when we are trying to train a model for an image classification model, let's example, now we need different kinds of animals. The number of images we train from each category or each class should be somewhat similar. I'm not saying it should be exactly as 50 cats and 50 dogs. It should not be exactly as that, but it should be the number of images trained from each class or each category should be similar or as equal as much as possible, because now the image, when the image is trying to the AI model is trying to come up with a image prediction after the training, when there are a lot of images from only one class, it will affect the overall accuracy of the model. So that's one of the things that you need to consider at the image classification part and the training and also handling of its data. Now, object detection is, let's say, example is you got an image of an office and detecting the objects around that. It can be a table, it can be a chair or a computer, like that. Different areas in a practical environment. Let's say object detection is when I say object detection, the objects that the AI model is detecting should not be actual physical object. We can, in the practical environment, we can apply, talk about this object detection part. Let's say there is some kind of vehicle repair line, and when the after the vehicle is, before vehicle is being repaired, some kind of camera reports all these the surrounding of the car vehicle that is been to be repaired, and identifying specific areas where they need to change or to fix. So that is also can be mentioned as object detection. Now the other thing I mentioned is object tracking. Now I'm sure you have seen all these videos about autonomous driving cars, where you can see like all these boxes and boxes drawn around humans, or something similar to this image I have put. You can see these boxes drawn around all of these objects, pedestrian and different types you see in the road. So this is basically object detection. And the other thing you might have seen is, now if it's a video, you would have seen that it's actually tracking that person or the vehicle while moving it. So that is comes under the object tracking area, following and tracking this area. So in order to get this where this object is going on. So that is the one of the three areas when it comes to computer vision: image classification, object detection, and object tracking. I'm actually trying to find this example of object detection. Unfortunately, I cannot. Okay, that's yeah, I actually tried to come up with this sample code for image classification and object detection, which didn't work, and I cannot find the example that I worked on at the moment. There seems to be a certain issue in my collabs folder where it seems to be gone missing. Yes, unfortunately, I cannot find that example which I try to do today. So yeah, that's the introduction part I wanted to come up with about deep learning and the computer vision concepts. Yeah, that's actually the setup I have done for today, and it seems that I cannot find or get this example to work to show it to you. We can move on to the next session. Basically, if there are any coding or anything that you have already tried out after the Sunday's seminar, any questions or any area, we can move into that. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Sameera.
Any questions or anyone who has tried out any coding after the Sunday session?
Let me check the Padlet. We don't have any questions regarding the last session though at the moment.
Any unclear idea in this, how this neural network works? If anyone wants more, anyone need any more details on that?
Guys, please type out your questions in the Padlet given in the chat below. Okay, we have an interesting question here. As a CTO, what are the skills that you look for in undergraduates?
In undergraduates?
When interviewing them.
Okay, that's basically depending on, when it comes to undergraduates, it's we have a separate internship. Basically look at what they have done. What are the practical knowledge they have. It can be anything. It can be just a simple program that they did it by themselves, or during some kind of project in the university. Some practical knowledge they have, and what the area they would like to learn or work on during the internship. That's for the internship. But after the graduation, now this internship is basically, it can be from 6 to 12 months. And our internship is not as the regular employment. We have different setup for university interns. Basically, we try to move them around a little bit more and try to give them much more broader experience in the software field, rather than just putting them to a just put them to 6 months and then leave. It's not how our internship program works. Basically, we try to move them around from software engineering to QA to project management to business analysis parts, and so they have a broader knowledge or broader experience during the internship program. So that's how the internship program works. But when it comes to actual employment after graduation, the more knowledge you have and more practical knowledge you have, and what are the projects you have done, we going to need much more details. Like, for example, let's say you could say, I have done person, we will ask, okay, library system, you did it in Python, I did it in PHP, so I did it in Java. So okay, you know Java, then that's it. That's all we want to know for an internship. But when it comes to actual employment, we will go into much more detail. What are the functions you have? If you are familiar with PHP, we might even decide to give you a small practical exam based on your answers, based on your expertise. Exactly like that. If it's an AI system, if it's a internship, okay, you have done AI application using Python. That's enough for an internship. You only need to know whether you have done something. But for an actual employment, we will ask, okay, what was the functionality? What are the technologies used? What modules did you use? What frameworks? What libraries have you used? We need much more detail when you're going for internship. So to answer the question, it actually differ from the job that you are seeking when it comes to after graduation employment. It can be differ from one job title to another, but we will look into much more in detail. We will try to check your knowledge on that area you are applying in much more detailed view.
All right. I hope we didn't spoil any interview questions though.
So you are
moving-
always welcome to come and join our internship program, which at the moment which is ongoing, and many of these participants is from RLIT, is it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And yes, you are all welcome for the employment opportunity as well. So if I watch a little bit more details on the, we have a specific internship program. We try to start from more like batches in batches. So we have one batch starting from January, which is for 6-month internship, and that internship we have trained. We have scheduled our program for about we have every 2 months we are trying to have a small review and give them update if they are doing anything, if there's any issues, what are the input from them that we can get, what improvements they need, what help we need, and what are the feedback that we can give to them. And we have actually organized several seminars or lectures which can be from our internal engineers who are actually working on projects itself. Plus, we have organized for the program starting in January, we have set up two seminars with industrial expertise from outside the company as well, which is actually a seminar which we have organized for the entire company on that area. But interns will also get the participation on that. And apart from that, yeah, so that's about the basic idea. And your idea is not to spoil anyone's dream. Everyone is welcome. I think I mentioned this on Sunday. It's basically what you decide to learn. I mean, one thing I always want to tell is you should never limit yourself to one area. In the recent times, I have seen people are coming with like, let's say, Node.js, Node programming language. They have done it for about maybe 1 or 2 years, but they don't know any other programming language. But my idea is if you can learn or know one programming language really good, if you can program in using one language really good, you should be open to try out many more languages as well. You should never limit yourself to doing only one language for a long time. I mean, it's good if you can do that, keep it up and be a master on that, yes. But if the opportunity, if you got the opportunity to move to a new area or learn new language, you shouldn't think it as, no, I will not learn that, it's hard for me. Always try to take up that challenge and try to learn as much as you can and get that opportunity. Because when I started my career, first I was a Java developer and then I became a PHP developer, and after that I learned React, Node, Python, and in the earlier days I have done with C as well. So you should never limit yourself to one area only. And I have done project management, QA engineering. It's okay if you're passionate is only for certain area, but always make sure you keep yourself open for new opportunities and new areas. So that's what I want to mention.
Yes, thank you for that, all those insights, Mr. Sameera. Before we move on to next question, just a quick reminder for the audience. We will share the link to the attendance form in a moment. Make sure you fill that form and to mark your attendance and to give us your feedback. Participants who showed up for both webinars will be eligible for a certificate of participation. On that note, let's move on to our second question. What are the best certificates in this field?
That actually was asked by me on Sunday.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, and I think I mentioned that I will try to come up with some kind of certification details, but unfortunately I couldn't get that list. Now, what I can tell is, okay, this part actually I'm not sure, but I have seen nowadays in this all these universities have specific degree programs targeting artificial intelligence or data science. And I have seen this online courses, and even in certain universities, there are specific diploma programs specifically targeting this area only. So unfortunately, there is no one or specific one that I can recommend, because I actually didn't did the research on that area. But you can try to learn that, but understand when it comes to AI, the most valuable asset is your experience, not the certification itself. You can learn all the knowledge from the certification program, but let's say if you are given a certain problem or a project to work on, even if you don't know how to get that done, you should be able to do the research necessary, learn whatever you need to learn, and complete that project. So I would say, unfortunately, there's no one specific course or certification program that I can recommend, but the best qualification you can get, especially for AI, is experience. So that's the that's the comment I can give on that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sameera. Moving on from that, we have another question. In aspect of computer vision, what is the best considered between semantic segmentation and instance segmentation?
Okay. Basically, when it comes to image segmentation, it means that how you try to gather the details on an image. So you could try to break the image into smaller chunks, and try to small chunks, and try to identify that small area as a separate image, and try to process that. Now, when the difference between semantic segmentation and the instant segmentation, what is the best is it might differ from the problem that you have to face, because now I'm actually not getting the the text that I need, how to correctly explain this. Yeah, so it might be based on the problem you have.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure whether I can tell which would be the best. It must be based on the problem you have, actually.
Yeah. Moving on from that, our next question is, what is the difference between CNN and RCNN?
Now CNN is this confluence neural network, but RCNN is basically more of a advanced method of CNN. Now the difference can be now normal RCNN basically stand for region conversion neural network. Now difference is CNN is much more RCNN is much more of an advanced version of RCNN is much more of an advanced version of CNN. So it's much more easier, or yeah, basically when it comes to CNN, you can say that the image can be processed as a whole in one section, whole section. But in RCNN, you can tell is it's tried to separate the image into smaller areas and try to process that. But it's basically, yeah, it's basically the next level of CNN, which is being replaced, RCNN, which is what is being replaced by CNN.
Oh, all right. Our next question is, when it's come to computer vision libraries, how useful is a library like Glue on CV?
Sorry?
When it's come to computer vision libraries,
what's the library name?
Glue on CV.
Okay. Actually, I have not used
Let
that
me put
library.
that
Yes.
in the chat.
Yeah, I have not used that, so I'm not familiar with it. But
All right.
yeah, I have used the OpenCV. Mainly, what I have used is the OpenCV library. So this, to mention how usefulness of this, it differ from the abilities and the functionalities of that. Again, it's now there are many versions and many libraries available. So which library you need to use might be different. For example, let's say one of the simplest example I can tell you is when it comes to AI, the performance, power, and the time is one of the key factors in AI. So even if when it comes to coding, you might think that, let's say, the library A is much more easy to code, library B is much more hard to code. Even it might be, even sometimes the lines of code in B might be large as well, whereas the library A has smaller lines of code. But you have to understand, when it comes to AI, the time that need to process and the processing power that needed also must be counted. So even the library B has a large number of code, it's possible that that library is much more advanced and easier to handle that task. And also just because you have larger number of code, you should not disregard that. You should try to use which is the best solution with, when it comes to AI. The other thing is, just because now, for an example, I mentioned that CNN and RCNN. So RCNN is the next level of CNN. Even though we mentioned that as the advanced method, if this advanced method is not providing you the expected output or the correct processing or the correct output you need, just because it's advanced, you should never use it. You should try to do the experiment and then try out the both ways and then decide which library to use. So again, about this Glue-on, same principle. So it's based on the problem you have, based on the functionality you have, and then you have to decide after doing a certain analysis of the details, how accurate is the AI model running, what is the time consumption, and what is the performance of these libraries. Based on all of these details only, you should decide which library you should be using it. Now, for an example, quite recently there was an issue where we came up with the certain model where using a one library, we wanted to we came up to we created an AI model where we got the accuracy to somewhere around 70 to around 70 to 80% algorithm. It was a computer vision based application. But then we researched on another library which will give you a much more much more accuracy to our AI model. But when we try to implement that, after implementation, actually we found out we had a considerable amount of increase in the time needed to come up with the answer. So then we were at a debate, which is what we need. What we need? We want the performance or the time, less time. So that actually, after that, we had a small internal discussion and we decided on one aspect and we went with that library. But what I'm saying is, just because one is advanced when it comes to AI, just because one library is advanced, you cannot use it. Simply because you get better accuracy and better performance, also you cannot use that. You have to consider time also. So there are a lot of factors involved, especially when it comes to AI. And AI is always going to be a more or less a research type area. It will not be simply like just, you couldn't, I don't think there are many people in the country where you can say, okay, I will deliver this AI model in 1 month. There will always be a research time involved, and time may vary depending on the outcome of depending on the outcome, which is based on many factors. So when it comes to the what model is the much more better one to use, what I have to say, it can vary depending on your problem, depending on the data set you have, depending on the processing power you need, and the depending on accuracy and also the processing time. So there are a lot of factors which you need to consider in deciding which library you need to use.
Okay, thank you for that insightful answer. Before we move on to next question, just quick reminder, guys. Please fill the attendance form which is in the Zoom chat to mark your attendance and to give us your feedback as well. As the last final question for tonight, in your opinion, what are the best starting projects that a new undergraduate student can try out to gain experience in this field?
Okay. I think I mentioned this last Sunday also. There are a lot of I'm still sharing screen, right? There are a lot of code samples and codes and other examples available in the you just simply matter of searching some text on Google, you could find a lot of coding. They might be working, they might be not. And when it comes to a specific projects that you can do to learn, it's basically what are the projects that you can do to learn a language or a technology. It doesn't matter whether it's AI or not. It can be simple programming language, anything. It's only the limited by your imagination only. Because several years back, I wanted to get more experience in Python language. What I did is I just simply had the web camera, my computer web camera, and actually the starting point of what I did was I simply wrote a small Python script to get certain details from a security door sensor and try to come up with a alarm. That was my first Python code. And one of my first AI related projects that I tried out was basically I set up a web camera and ask someone to just walk in front of it and try to come up with a model to identify whether someone has walked in front of the camera. And I think I mentioned this on Sunday as well. You can think of again when it comes to with the computer vision concept, you can try to come up with a model where you're using the camera. You can try to detect whether the light in your room is on or is it off. Just simply detecting whether your cameras can see lights or not. So those are very, very simple things that you can try out. Or you can obviously you have a lot of pictures of yourself and your family. what you can do is gather around 100 or 200 images of your family. Try to write a simple code and face recognition model for your family. I know it might not be useful in the real world, but this is for you to learn. So you just get few images from your old albums, train those images to a system, see under what accuracy that camera can clearly detect which person is standing in front of the camera. Also, nowadays, if you are like to playing with these remote control cars, vehicles, so there are very easily you can find coding and these hardware mechanisms also, where you can simply try to come up with a simple application avoiding an object in front of the car. You can simply come up with a toy car. I think there are places where you can even buy all the hardware that you need. I saw one for a very low price of around, you cannot say it's very low, but it was something around, I think, 5,000 or 6,000, the entire model, the hardware part of that, but you have to do the coding part separately, but you get the motors, the cameras and everything. I cannot remember where I saw that, but because there are several, actually a few years back, not recently. So these are very simple ideas that you can come up with. So what you need to do in order to learn something is only limited by your imagination only, and your willingness to try on that new project or not. So I cannot say you can do this project to try it out, because I can tell you you read a book and try to run, you read out a book loudly and try to come up with a model to identify what the person is saying. I would say that is a little bit boring. Even for myself, it's kind of boring. But something to do with computer vision is quite interesting. I don't know, for myself, it seems quite interesting. So you just think of some project and all you have to do is just try it out several times. But you have to understand, when it comes to AI, there might be lot of times that you will get the wrong answers, because I remember about 1 month back, I was actually trying out this automated vehicle driving module. Let's see if I can get that. But I tried to, it's basically a simulation tool, automated simulation tool, which I want to get it running. But I tried out for about, I don't know, around at least for about a month to try to get it running. But still, there were certain issues with my PCs where I cannot install certain modules. I had to format my PC several times to get it set up also. No, it's no, unfortunately, I cannot find that. Anyway, so simply what you can do is there might be a lot of times that you will get the expected output, but given the time that you have now, you should not give it up. If you really want to learn it, just keep on trying, and someday it might surprise you because of the knowledge you gain from that as well. So that's not problem.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sameera, for answering all these questions. A sincerest gratitude goes to you for conducting such a valuable series of webinars throughout 2 days on top of the world, to being able to conduct such an amazing session with such a luminary like you. And I hope this would have made a huge impact, especially to our participants who are eager to specialize in this field. And a major thanks goes to Orel IT for their support along with our participants present. I believe now you have everything you need to start your AI journey. And also do keep an eye on our social media for upcoming events. We are planning to bring many more luminaries like this to your home if it is online. Otherwise, we are more than happy to see you in person. So on that note, I think we can successfully conclude this webinar series. Have a good night, everybody.
Yes, Samindu, one more and this is the since we want that this is the simulator I mentioned. So if any one of you are into self-driving cars, try out this. I will just try to put this out in the chat area. It's basically a simulator program where you can simulate a driving car and just try to run this. If anyone is interested in this autonomous driving section, you can get trying to get it done. It's so it's very good simulator for a introduction level person who is coming into autonomous driving. So that's what I mentioned, and I wanted to which I was looking just before we ended the session. Since I found it, I wanted to share with everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sameera, again for conducting this amazing session. On that note, I think we can successfully conclude this series of webinar. Thank you for participating for 2 days. All right, guys. Good night, everybody, and stay safe. And Merry Christmas.